"Ethan, it's urgent," Richard said over the phone, his tone clipped. "I need you at the penthouse, now." It was almost midnight. I'd been buried in paperwork for weeks, but when your boss calls, you go. That was how I survived, by being reliable. I looked over at Claire, who sat on the couch scrolling through her phone. "Another late night call?" she asked, barely looking up. "Yeah," I said, slipping my jacket on. "Richard says it's important." She gave a small smile. "You always say yes to him." "He's my boss," I muttered. "That's kind of how jobs work." Her eyes flickered, sharp for a second. "Maybe that's why he likes you so much." I ignored the edge in her tone. "Don't wait up." She didn't. The city lights blurred past as I drove through the quiet streets. Something in my gut felt wrong, but I pushed it away. I'd done nothing wrong. I'd been loyal to my job, to my marriage. What could possibly go wrong? When I reached the building, the guard nodded at me like usual. "Mr. Cole, Mr. Hale's expecting you." "Thanks," I said, stepping into the elevator. The air felt heavier with every floor it climbed. At the penthouse door, I knocked once. No answer. Then I heard laughter, soft, intimate, familiar. My heart skipped. I pushed the door open. Richard's suit jacket was on the couch. Claire's purse was beside it. And there they were, her back to me, his hand on her waist, both half-dressed, both frozen mid-laughter. "Ethan," Claire gasped, pulling away. Richard straightened, face pale. "This isn't what it looks like," I laughed, though it sounded more like a cough. "You really just said that." Claire stepped toward me, voice shaking. "I can explain." "Don't!" My voice came out low, broken. "Don't explain something that already explains itself." She tried again. "Ethan, please, save it," I said, turning away. "You were supposed to be my home, Claire." "Not my lesson," Richard rubbed his temples. "Look, this was a mistake. It just happened. You called me here," I said, realizing it slowly. "You wanted me to see." He looked away. That silence was my answer. Something inside me cracked quietly. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just stood there, feeling my world shift beneath my feet. Claire's voice broke. "Ethan, I didn't mean—" "Yeah, you did," I said softly. "You both did." I walked past them, past the wine glasses, past the jacket I'd once bought Richard as a gift. The air smelled like betrayal and cheap perfume. "Ethan, please don't go like this," she said, chasing after me. I turned at the door. "How should I go, Claire? Should I applaud? Shake his hand?" Tears welled up in her eyes. "I made a mistake." "No," I said quietly. "You made a choice." The elevator doors closed between us. For a second, I saw her reflection. Small, trembling, familiar. Then it vanished. Downstairs, the world looked the same, but I wasn't. The city lights didn't comfort me anymore. They burned. My hands were shaking. My chest felt hollow. I drove without direction, ending up by the river where we used to walk. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. "How long?" I whispered to the empty car. "Weeks, months." The only answer was the wind. I remembered every late night she told me she was working late. Every time Richard said, "You're like family to me." Every lie that had felt so normal. The anger came in waves. The sadness came slower, deeper. When my phone buzzed, it was a text from Claire. "I'm sorry. Please come home." I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Then I deleted the message. Home didn't exist anymore. I looked at my reflection in the windshield. Tired eyes, trembling jaw. "Who even are you now?" I muttered. For the first time in years, I had no answer. The river shimmered under the streetlights, quiet and uncaring. Somewhere behind me, the city kept moving, unaware that my life had just ended. I laughed bitterly.
"You did it, Ethan," I said to myself.
You worked your way to betrayal. When the clock hit 2 a.m., I started the car. The sound of the engine was the only thing that didn't lie to me that night. As I drove away, one thought stayed with me, cold, clear, final. They took everything I loved. But someday, they'd remember who I was before they broke me. And when that day came, I wouldn't be the same man walking away in silence. I'd be the one they'd never see coming. The next morning, I barely slept. My phone buzzed before sunrise, an email from HR. Meeting with Mr. Hale at 8 a.m. I already knew what it meant. When I walked into the office, everyone looked away. The air felt different, quieter, colder. I passed Claire's desk. She didn't even glance up. "Morning, Ethan." Linda said softly, standing by the HR door. Her eyes looked tired. He's waiting for you. Thanks, I muttered. My voice didn't sound like mine. Richard was behind his desk, tapping a pen. Sit down, he said. No greeting, no smile. Just the voice of someone pretending this was routine. I stayed standing. Say it, he sighed, setting the pen down. You're being let go. That's it? I asked. No reason? No warning? It's business, he said. You've been underperforming. The board. Cut the act, Richard, I snapped. You could at least lie better. His jaw tightened. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Harder? I laughed bitterly. You took my job, my wife, and my self-respect. What else is left to make harder? Ethan, he said, leaning forward, I didn't take anything. You lost it. For a second, I just stared at him. The man I once admired now looked like a stranger. Claire entered without knocking. She carried a folder, divorce papers. She didn't look up. Sign these, she said. My throat went dry. You couldn't even wait a day? It's better to get it over with, she said quietly. Richard didn't say a word. I took the papers, flipping through them. You're really doing this, I whispered. She kept her eyes on the floor. It's for the best. For the best, I repeated. Who's best, Claire? Yours or his? Please don't make a scene, she said. I smiled weakly. A scene? You made one last night. Her face twitched, but she stayed silent. Linda knocked softly. Sorry, Ethan. We'll need your access card before you go. I looked at her. She looked sorry, truly sorry, but what could she do? You're just doing your job, I said. Don't worry. I dropped the badge on Richard's desk. The sound of it hitting the wood was louder than any goodbye. As I turned to leave, Richard said, You'll find something else. You're smart. I stopped at the door. No, I said. I'll build something else. That's the difference. He didn't reply. Outside, the office looked smaller than I remembered. People whispered as I walked past. No one met my eyes. Cowards always look away when the hero falls. By noon, I was sitting on a park bench with a cardboard box beside me. Photos, files, a mug that said world's most reliable. The irony hurt. My phone buzzed again. Mason. Bro, he said as soon as I answered. I just heard. Tell me you didn't punch him. Didn't need to, I said. Words were enough. He laughed, then paused. You okay? No, I said honestly. But I will be. Come stay with me for a while, he offered. You can't just disappear. I need to, I said. If I stay here, I'll rot, he sighed. At least tell me you'll fight back. Not yet, I said. Right now, I just want silence. Silence doesn't fix betrayal, Ethan. Neither does noise, I replied. We said nothing for a while, just the sound of traffic between us. Finally, Mason said, Whatever you do, don't let them win. I won't, I said. But first I need to remember who I was before them. That night, I packed what little I had left into a duffel bag. The apartment felt empty, like someone had stolen the air itself. Claire's things were gone. The walls looked bare, stripped of memory. I stood in the doorway one last time. Goodbye, old life, I whispered. The city lights outside flickered, reflecting off my car window as I drove away. Every mile between me and that building felt like air returning to my lungs. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have hope. But somewhere between the anger and the heartbreak, something small began to stir inside me. Not revenge. Not yet, just resolve 3 years. It sounds short until you live every single day of it. Remind me again why we thought starting a consulting firm with 0 clients was a good idea, Mason said, slamming another empty coffee cup on the table. Because we had nothing left to lose, I said. He groaned. That's not motivation, that's desperation. It worked, didn't it? I said, pointing to the glowing laptop screen. 2 contracts this month. That's 2 more than last year, he laughed, rubbing his eyes. Man, I miss sleeping. Sleep is for people who aren't rebuilding their lives, I said, only half joking. He looked at me for a long moment. You still think about them? Every day, I admitted. But not the same way. How's that? I used to think about what they did to me, I said. Now I think about what I'm becoming because of it. Mason nodded. That's progress. I leaned back, staring at the office walls, bare, cracked, and honest. We'd rented a space above a failing bookstore. It smelled like old paper and second chances. By the second year, things started to shift. One morning, a sleek black car stopped outside our building. A woman stepped out. Sharp suit, calm expression, eyes that looked like they saw everything. "Ethan Cole?" she asked. "That's me," I said. "I'm Ava Monroe," she said, shaking my hand. "I represent Monroe Ventures. I've been following your company's growth. You've done a lot with very little." Mason raised an eyebrow. "That's one way to describe barely surviving," Ava smiled. "Sometimes the best companies start from desperation." I met her gaze. "Why are you really here?" "To invest," she said. "And to see if your story is worth betting on." I laughed. "Our story? It's mostly failure and caffeine." "Failure builds better leaders," she said. "Caffeine just keeps them awake long enough to prove it." Her confidence was unsettling. She didn't talk like other investors. No numbers, no cold terms. She talked like someone who understood pain. Over lunch, she listened more than she spoke. Mason told her about our sleepless nights. I told her about rebuilding from nothing. I didn't mention Claire or Richard, but she noticed the silence in my pauses. When we finished, she said, "You're not just chasing profit, Ethan. You're chasing redemption." I froze. "That obvious?" She nodded gently. "Only to someone who's done it." She left that day with a promise to send an offer letter. True to her word, it arrived within a week. Mason whistled when he saw the number. "She just doubled our entire yearly revenue." "She believes in us," I said quietly. "No," he corrected. "She believes in you." Maybe he was right. Months passed, and for the first time, success didn't feel like luck. It felt earned. Clients called us instead of the other way around. We built a team, small, loyal, hungry. Every project that failed taught us something. Everyone that succeeded healed a little part of me. One night, Ava stopped by the office long after everyone left. "You never leave early," she said, setting down 2 coffees. "Habits die slow," I said. "Or maybe you're still running from something," she said softly. I looked at her. "Maybe I'm running toward something," she smiled. I liked that answer better. We stood by the window watching the city lights flicker. For the first time since that night at the penthouse, the lights didn't mock me. They looked like possibility. Ava turned to me. "If you don't mind me asking, what made you start this?" "Loss," I said simply. "Everything I loved was taken from me, so I built something that couldn't be." "Revenge?" "Not anymore," I said. "At first, maybe, but now, I just want peace." She studied me, her expression unreadable. "Then I hope you find it." When she left, Mason walked in, grinning. "You realize she's basically our guardian angel, right?" "She's an investor," I said. He smirked. "Keep telling yourself that." I ignored him, though part of me knew he wasn't entirely wrong. Ava had a calm that felt like balance, a reminder that not every powerful person had to destroy to succeed. By the 3rd year, our firm began overtaking Richard's company in the market. I didn't celebrate. I just watched the numbers climb, quiet satisfaction replacing anger. Mason burst into my office one morning, waving the latest reports. "You're not gonna believe this. Hale Industries just lost their biggest client, to us." I smiled faintly. "Karma writes faster than revenge ever could." He laughed. "You sound poetic now." "Maybe I'm just tired of being angry." That night, I walked home under the rain, coat soaked, heart calm. They hadn't seen these years, the hunger, the rebuilding, the fight to breathe again. But soon, they would, and I wasn't the man they left behind anymore. "Are you ready for this?" Ava asked, her voice calm but her eyes sharp as glass. "As ready as the man they fired 3 years ago can be," I said, adjusting my tie. "It's poetic, isn't it?" She smiled faintly. "Poetic or dangerous?" "Both," I replied. "But I've waited long enough to stop caring about danger." Mark Stevens, my lawyer, entered the room with a folder full of documents. "Everything's in place, Ethan. The last batch of shares clears today. By noon, you'll officially control 61% of Hale Industries." I exhaled slowly. "And Richard has no idea?" "Not yet," Mark said. "He'll find out when we walk in." "Good," I said. "I want him to see me." Ava looked at me carefully. "You don't have to face him yourself. You could send Mark." "No," I said, buttoning my jacket. I walked out of that building in silence. I'm walking back in with my name on the door. We drove downtown through the same streets I used to cross on foot, carrying resignation papers and shame. The skyline hadn't changed, but I had. The glass tower of Hale Industries loomed ahead, still polished, still proud. Ava glanced at me. "You're quiet." "Just remembering," I murmured. The day I left, I told myself I'd never beg again. Today proves I didn't have to. When we entered the lobby, the receptionist blinked twice. "Good morning, sir. Do you, have an appointment?" I smiled faintly. "You could say that." Mark leaned in. "He's the new majority shareholder." Her eyes widened. "You're Mr. Cole?" "The same," I said. "Is Richard in his office?" "Yes, sir." "But he's in a meeting." "Perfect," I said. "Let's join him." We stepped into the elevator. Each floor rising felt like another layer of the past peeling away. When the doors opened, I saw the same glass doors, the same hallway. My heart didn't race this time. It beat steady, confident. Mark opened the conference room door. Richard was mid-sentence, surrounded by board members. "If we can secure new funding, we'll stabilize by quarter's end." "Funding secured," I said from the doorway. His voice faltered. "Who the hell?" He froze when he saw me. "Ethan?" I walked in slowly. "Long time, Richard," he stood, face paling. "What are you doing here?" I placed the folder on the table. "Buying what's left of your pride," he blinked. "You what?" Mark handed him the documents. "Mr. Cole now owns controlling interest in Hale Industries." Effective immediately, the room went silent. Even the hum of the projector seemed to stop. Richard stared at the papers, then at me. "This can't be real." "It's very real," I said. "You sold your future one bad deal at a time. I just happened to be the one buying." His jaw clenched. "You planned this?" "No," I said. "You planned this when you fired the wrong man." One of the board members whispered, "Does this mean—" "Yes," I interrupted. "It means I'm your new CEO," Richard laughed bitterly. "You think you can run this place better than me?" "I already am," I said. "Your contracts?" "Your clients? They're mine now. You built your empire on shortcuts. I built mine on everything you threw away." He looked down, breathing hard. "And Claire?" he said quietly. "Is this about her too?" I met his eyes. "No, she was a chapter. You were the lesson." Ava stepped forward. "Gentlemen, perhaps we should finalize the transition." "Transition?" Richard snapped. "You can't just walk in and—" "I can," I said. And I did. "You made me sign your paperwork once, remember? Now it's your turn." He stared at me, then at the pen Mark placed before him. His hand trembled. "You'll regret this." "Maybe," I said softly. "But you'll remember it." He signed, the sound of ink scraping against paper louder than anything else in the room. When it was done, I extended my hand. "Welcome to your new position, Richard," he frowned. "Position?" "Advisor," I said. "Unpaid," Ava hid a smile. Mark gathered the papers. Richard sank into his chair. "You wanted revenge." "No," I said, turning toward the door. "I wanted closure. Revenge was just part of the package." In the hallway, Ava matched my pace. "How does it feel?" I paused by the elevator, watching the reflection of the building's logo behind me. Like the world just turned right again. She smiled softly. "So what now?" "Now?" I said. "We rebuild, properly this time." As the elevator doors closed, I caught one last glimpse of Richard through the glass. Small, broken, silent. The same silence I left him with years ago. When my assistant buzzed in, I almost ignored it. "Sir, there's a woman here asking to see you." "Says it's urgent," I sighed. "Name?" "She says Claire Cole." The name hit like a ghost. For a moment, I just stared at the window, at the city that once swallowed me whole. "Send her in," I said finally. The door opened, and there she was, hair unkempt, eyes red, the polished confidence gone. She looked smaller than I remembered. "Ethan," she whispered. "You look different." "I should," I said. "Time changes people." She stepped closer, voice trembling. I didn't know where else to go. I leaned back in my chair. "Strange." "You had everywhere to go once." Tears slid down her cheeks. "Please don't start like that." "I know what I did, do you?" I asked quietly. "Because I still remember the night I walked in on you." "You laughed, Claire." "You laughed while my world burned," she swallowed hard. "I was stupid. I thought I wanted more. Richard promised me everything. But it was all lies." "Lies have a way of sounding sweet," I said. "Until they rot." She flinched, then nodded. "He replaced me, Ethan, with someone half my age. She's running my campaigns now, living in my apartment." I have nothing. I folded my hands. And now you want what? Forgiveness? A job? A second chance at dignity? Her voice cracked. I want you to look at me, please. Just look at me and tell me you don't hate me. I met her eyes. I don't hate you, her breath caught. You don't? No, I said softly. I used to, but hate takes energy and I ran out of that a long time ago. She took another step closer. Then maybe we can start over. Start over? I repeated, half a laugh escaping me. You left me in pieces, Claire. And when I rebuilt myself, you called it luck. You called it timing. You never called it regret. I was wrong, she whispered. Every single thing I chose was wrong. Then maybe that's your lesson, I said. We all get what we trade love for. She shook her head violently. No, Ethan, you don't understand. I thought Richard loved me. You thought ambition could fill the space love left behind, I interrupted. I understand perfectly. Her voice broke into sobs. I can't sleep. I can't think. I keep seeing your face from that night. That's the thing about guilt, I said quietly. It doesn't fade, it just waits. She gripped the edge of my desk. Please, Ethan, I'm not asking for money. I just need to know you forgive me. I stared at her for a long moment. The woman who once stood above me now stood trembling in front of me, her voice shaking like the glass between us years ago. Finally, I stood. Claire, I said softly, forgiveness isn't something I owe. It's something you find when you face yourself. She wiped her tears. So that's it? That's it. Her lip quivered. You really won't take me back? I almost smiled. You left a man who had nothing. Now you're asking a man who has everything. I think the irony speaks for itself. She stepped back, eyes wide. You've changed. I had to, I said. The man you broke couldn't have survived this far. She opened her mouth to say something, but I walked around the desk, opened the door, and nodded toward the hallway. Take care of yourself. Her tears fell harder. You can't just end it like this. I already did, I said. The night you chose someone else. She lingered in the doorway. Ethan, I'm sorry. I looked past her, out the window where the sun cut through the skyline. So am I, and then I turned away. No anger, no victory, just calm. The sound of the door closing behind her was quiet, almost merciful. When the boardroom doors slammed open, every head turned. Richard stormed in, red-faced, voice sharp enough to cut glass. You think this is funny, Ethan? He shouted. You stab me in the back and call it business? I stayed seated, calm. Business, I said evenly, was the word you used when you fired me. Remember? His glare burned. You were nothing without me. I built you, I met his eyes. And yet somehow you're the one standing in front of me begging for answers. The room went silent. The director shifted uncomfortably. Mark glanced at me, waiting for a cue. Mr. Hale, he said carefully, this isn't the time for personal disputes. The shareholders have voted. Control is no longer in your hands. Richard slammed his fist on the table. This is my company. My legacy. I leaned forward slightly. Your legacy, I said, was built on betrayal and arrogance. You thought no one could touch you. Turns out karma doesn't need permission, he pointed at me. You planned this. You and that investor, what's her name? Ava. You've been after me for years. I tilted my head. Funny. You think anyone needed to destroy you? You did a good enough job yourself. His voice cracked. You think you're better than me? No, I said quietly. Just wiser, he laughed bitterly. You think this makes you a man? Taking what's mine? I stood. What's yours? You took my job. My wife, my future. I didn't take anything, Richard. I just stopped letting you take more. He tried to speak, but his throat caught. The arrogance in his face was replaced by something else. Fear. The chairman cleared his throat. Mr. Hale, please step down. Security will escort you. Richard turned to the others, desperate. You can't do this! I gave you all everything! No, one of the directors said coldly. You gave yourself everything. 2 security guards appeared at the door. Richard spun toward me, eyes wild. You think this makes you even? It's not about even, I said. It's about balance. You think I'll disappear quietly? You already did, I said softly. The day you chose greed over loyalty. He stared at me like he wanted to lunge across the table. Then his shoulders slumped. For the first time, he looked small, just a man stripped of power. As security approached, he muttered, "You'll regret this." "I already regret knowing you," I said. The guards placed a hand on his arm. He jerked away. "Don't touch me!" But when they moved again, he didn't fight. He just looked around the room, eyes empty. Everyone watched in silence as the man who once commanded fear walked out without a title, without respect. The doors closed. Mark exhaled. "Well," he said quietly, "that was something." Ava gave me a small, knowing smile.
How do you feel?
I looked out the window at the city stretching beneath us. "Lighter," I said. "Like I can finally breathe," she nodded. "You didn't gloat." "There's nothing to gloat about," I said. "He built his empire on sand. All I did was watch the tide come in." Mark chuckled softly. "You're colder than I thought." "Not cold," I said. "Just done." Silence filled the room again, peaceful this time. The chaos was gone, replaced by something calm, steady. Ava walked up beside me. "You know, most people dream of revenge their whole lives." "I did once," I admitted. "But now that it's here, I don't feel victorious. Just free," she smiled faintly. "That's better than revenge." "Maybe it is," I said, "because now I don't have to think about him anymore." Outside, the sun was setting behind the skyline, painting the glass towers gold. For the first time in years, I wasn't chasing or running. I was still. When I finally turned away from the window, I whispered to myself, "It's over." And it truly was. The ballroom buzzed with chatter, soft jazz, and clinking glasses. Ava stood beside me, radiant in a black dress, her confidence lighting the room more than any chandelier could. "Big turnout tonight," she said, scanning the crowd. "Investors smell opportunity," I replied, adjusting my cufflinks. "They always do." Then I froze. Across the room, blonde hair, pale dress, forced smile. Claire. Ava noticed my silence. "You okay?" I nodded slowly. "Yeah, just didn't expect to see a ghost." Claire noticed me too. Her expression flickered between shock and hesitation before she made her way over. Every step looked heavy, uncertain. "Ethan," she said softly when she reached me. "You look different," I smiled faintly. "That seems to be a theme lately," she gave a nervous laugh. "I almost didn't come tonight. I wasn't sure you'd want to see me." "I didn't," I said simply. Her shoulders dropped, but she pressed on. "I'm not here to talk about the past." "That's good," I said. "It's already full." Ava's hand brushed my arm gently, grounding me. Claire glanced at her, curiosity in her eyes. "And this must be Ava Monroe, the investor everyone's talking about." Ava offered a polite nod. "Pleasure," Claire forced a smile. "You've done well for yourself, Ethan. I've been..." "Keeping up." "Keeping up?" I asked. "Funny, you never liked looking back," her voice faltered. "I had to. My firm's struggling. I'm trying to rebuild, but the market's brutal. I was hoping maybe..." I cut in. "Maybe what?" "Maybe we could work together," she said quickly. "I know how it sounds, but I'm serious. I have experience, contacts, ideas. I could help your firm grow even faster." I laughed quietly. "You want to work for me?" She swallowed. "With you?" I tilted my head. "You remember the night you and Richard fired me?" Her lips trembled. "Yes." I told myself I'd never beg again. "And now here you are, asking for the one thing you took from me. Trust." "I deserve that," she whispered. "But please, Ethan, I'm not asking for pity. I need a chance to stand again." Ava's voice was calm but firm. "Claire, he doesn't owe you that chance." Claire looked at her, then back at me. "Ethan, I know I hurt you. I live with it every day. But I've changed. I've learned what loyalty costs when you throw it away." I sighed. "I believe you, but belief doesn't rebuild what you burned. So that's it?" she asked. "You won't even consider it?" I met her gaze evenly. "Claire, I don't mix business with betrayal." She blinked fast, fighting tears. "You really hate me, don't you?" I shook my head. "No, I just stopped loving who you were." Her voice cracked. She was stupid, desperate. She thought success meant never needing anyone. She didn't realize she already had everything. For a moment, I saw the woman I used to know, human, flawed, fragile, but that was the past. I turned slightly toward Ava, who was watching quietly, strength in her eyes. "This," I said, nodding to her, "is the future I chose." Ava smiled, slipping her hand into mine. Claire's tears finally fell. "You really did move on. I had to, I said softly. Otherwise, I'd still be standing in the ashes you left. She took a step back, voice breaking. I hope you're happy. I am, I said. And I hope someday you'll find peace too. She nodded faintly, wiped her eyes, and walked away through the crowd that no longer turned for her. Ava squeezed my hand. You handled that with grace, I exhaled slowly. Closure isn't loud. It's quiet. We watched the city lights through the tall windows. For the first time in years, the past didn't feel heavy, just distant. I leaned against the glass wall of my office, the city lights stretching out like veins of gold beneath the night sky. The same office where Richard once made me feel small, now mine. The silence felt different. It wasn't heavy anymore. It was peace. Ava walked in, holding 2 mugs. You're still here? It's past midnight, I smiled faintly. Old habits. The difference is now I stay because I want to. She set the coffee beside me. Not because someone demanded it, I chuckled softly. Exactly. Funny, isn't it? I used to think success meant proving them wrong. Turns out it just meant proving I could move on. She leaned beside me, her reflection flickering against the glass. You've come far, you know. From the man who was fired for being poor. To this. Yeah. I murmured. Back then I thought revenge was power. Now I see it was just noise. What mattered was what I built after, Ava smiled. Then you built well. I turned to her. Couldn't have done it alone. She raised an eyebrow. Oh? I seem to recall someone saying, I work better solo. I laughed quietly. And I seem to recall someone proving me wrong. The elevator chimed in the distance. The janitor passed by, nodding politely. I nodded back, realizing how far I'd come from being invisible in someone else's company. Ava sipped her coffee. You ever think about them? Claire and Richard? I asked. She nodded. Sometimes, I admitted. Not with anger, though. More like curiosity, wondering if they ever look back and realize what they lost. They lost more than money, she said. Yeah, I agreed. They lost themselves chasing what never mattered. Ava tilted her head. And you found yourself by letting go, I smiled. Guess that's the irony. She reached out, brushing a speck of dust off my sleeve. You're quieter these days. I used to think silence meant weakness, I said. Now it feels like strength. The city hummed below us. For once, I didn't feel like I was running, just standing still in a life that finally fit. Ava glanced around the office. You've transformed everything. Even this place feels lighter. I looked at her, then around at the soft lights, the open space, the absence of fear. It's because the weight's gone, I said. The ghosts don't live here anymore, she smiled. So what's next, Mr. CEO? I pretended to think. A vacation? A long one. Maybe somewhere quiet, without emails? She teased. Without regrets, I replied. We both laughed. For a moment, I just watched her, the calm, the warmth. She wasn't part of my revenge. She was part of my redemption. Funny, I said softly. For so long, I dreamed of standing here to prove something. But now, I don't need to prove anything. Ava's voice was gentle. That's when you know you've won. Won? I repeated. I don't even think of it as winning anymore. It's just living, she nodded. Living better, I exhaled slowly. Yeah, living better. The clock ticked softly. I picked up the framed picture on my desk, Ava and I at the company's anniversary event, laughing under the lights. No masks, no power games, just peace. I set it back down and looked out again. The city didn't look so cruel tonight. It looked alive, forgiving. You ready to head home? Ava asked. In a minute, I said. Just want to remember this view, she smiled. You'll see it again tomorrow. Yeah, I murmured. But tomorrow's not what I'm thinking about. She gave me a curious look. Then what? Gratitude, I said quietly. For everything I lost and everything I found, she squeezed my hand. That's the quiet victory, isn't it? I smiled at her. It is. And for the first time in years, I truly meant it.